I think we're right in the middle already of what is only the third major economic revolution that mankind's ever seen. This one is being driven by the ubiquitousness of information. It is streamlining and sucking inefficiency out of the world as we know it every day and every moment that goes by. I think we're at a tremendously exciting moment in time, but also a frightening one. This kind of gigantic economic revolution both represents the most profound opportunity anyone that's now alive on Earth has ever seen, but also the most profound threats to sort of life as we have known it, the way of life as we have known it. It's not going to be the same. If I look back and try to figure out how I first sort of started to dive into this subject, it was because I was doing economic commentary on several national cable networks. And I realized that as the world really kind of seemed to spin out of control, that I frankly had no idea what I was talking about. But the reality was, and I think it was the same reality for other commentators, almost all other commentators as well, nobody could really explain exactly what was happening. So what I set out on was kind of an intellectual journey to say, what is going on? What do I think is happening? Where is this leading us? What are these big forces that seem to be shaping our world? I set out to kind of try to find those. And as I began to find them, I began to say, you really can begin to navigate in this environment a little bit, even if you cannot plot out the exact trajectory we're going to take to the moon and the stars and beyond. We can kind of say, hey, the moon's up that way. That's where we're going to go. That's where I'm pretty sure that's where I need to go, or at least I'm willing to bet that's where I need to go because I don't think I can stay here. The first one was when we moved from being hunter-gatherers to the middle of an agrarian revolution. That agrarian revolution was when civilization first came to mankind. It's when the Fertile Crescent developed. It was during something called the Neolithic era, and for 7,000 years, mankind found itself moving in an economic revolution from one way of life to another. 7,000 years later, the Industrial Revolution comes along, and once again, people go from what has been an overwhelmingly dominant way of life to a world where suddenly we had machines and we had formation of companies and we had the idea that we're going to build a machine and we're going to hire people. We're going to create things called jobs and we're going to ask those people to come to the machine and do their work. We're now at the third major economic revolution. And this one is being driven by the ubiquitousness of information, by the fact that every one of us has a device which gives me the functional equivalent of access to every bit of knowledge and every bit of information ever developed by the human race is here in my pocket. And this too represents another massive change in the effectiveness of the way we go about getting the things we want. And just as the previous two revolutions took hold because they in fact were vastly more efficient than what came before, so too is this system. It's more efficient in eliminating the cost of things. It's more efficient in how we share resources. It's more efficient in how we collaborate with each other. It keeps costs down. It actually makes us more sustainable. A lot of us, it turns out, make our living off of inefficiencies in the economy and off broken information flows. A lot of people who make their living that way by solving inefficiencies, by plugging holes in the information fabric, are going to find that their way of life is going away, and there is no way to bring it back. So a reasonable question for a guy sitting here in a Rockmount Ranchwear gaudy blue shirt talking about the future economy is what gives. Rockmount Ranchwear shirts are made in my hometown of Denver, Colorado, and as I thought about what I do and doing it in front of audiences, I thought a lot about what I was wearing and what it said about. You know what? This kind of is a little bit about like the future economy itself. It's kind of bright in some ways. It's kind of frightening in other ways. I see all those things in the future economy, and I just figured, you know what? I might as well go down the road that feels like it fits for where we're headed. We're moving into a world that I like to say is first and foremost search-driven. What does it mean? It means that all of us have to begin thinking about how are we going to be the answer to somebody's search query? How is my company going to be found? and what are people going to be looking for, and what do I want them to be looking for. And by the way, it can't be for everything. Nobody searches for, how do I spend my money? It is easier to start with a specific thing, with a focus, and then find the adjacencies to it and the ways that you can kind of build on that. That's a way easier way to start than setting out a catch basin to grab everything that floats by. Frankly, the first thing I think we all need to do is think about what we're passionate about and how we can put a fine point on it and how we can explain it to the world so that it's findable when that fundamental principle of search organization kicks in and someone comes looking for it.